Hey, welcome to our presentation. We are Kevin Barry and
Hello.
Eduardo Pineda, and we are here to present the economic paradigm change for building a space elevator. First of all, a little bit of history. Space elevator, this has been a concept that humanity always wants to reach the stars. This concept started even 3,000 years ago with the Babel Tower. The concept has been definitely getting much more traction. In the 1900s, there has been the idea of getting an Eiffel Tower to go to the stars as a compression, and then the design has been changed to a traction system with a rope. The current design that we are everybody using, more or less in the space community, is based on the Bradley Edwards research that he made for the NASA 17 years ago. Since then, there has been specific changes, especially in the tether, moving from carbon nanotubes to 2D materials, in the power, moving from beaming to solar. However, when it comes to economics, we're still thinking about cost per kilogram, and our purpose of this paper is to change that paradigm.
There are three key problems with these assumptions. First, the low cost per kilogram is a consumer perspective, not an investment proposition. While it's a consumer perspective to choose a bus or plane one over the other, this is not an argument as to build airports or bus stations. If it was, you would never build an airport, you would only build bus stops. Second, space elevators are not like rockets, and comparisons between them are nuanced at best. And third, there is a big important difference between infrastructure and enterprise. Rockets have been coming down dramatically in the last few years. When Bradley Edwards proposed a space elevator at $100 per kilogram, it was a really good argument compared to the $54,000 per kilogram alternative of the space shuttle. But now that Starship plans to release at $10 to maybe $100 per kilogram, that argument doesn't appear as weak. This comparison is flawed, however, in two different ways. One, that's the cost of getting to low Earth orbit, not the cost of GEO, which is actually where a space elevator delivers, that and beyond. And second, it doesn't consider that there is going to be an effective max launch cadence. This may be caused by launch window restrictions, bureaucratic restrictions, environmental pollution. We don't know how many rockets we can launch ultimately, but we do know that the mass throughput of a space elevator is going to far exceed what rockets are practically going to be able to launch in the next few years. The next important distinction is that between cost and price. That while both enterprises like soda fountains and highway infrastructure projects benefit from lower costs to build and construct, they have different incentives with regard to price. Enterprises like soda fountains or rockets are incentivized to increase their price as much as the market will bear in order to generate the largest potential profit. On the other hand, infrastructure projects are motivated to have the highest utilization rates possible. This is achieved by lowering their price. And in fact, the relationship is a linear reduction in price leads to an exponential increase in utilization. Therefore, many infrastructure projects have an effective price of $0, even though that is very much not their cost. Instead, when evaluating a space elevator, which behaves much more like an infrastructure project, we propose using this inequality, where value must significantly exceed the capital cost plus financing divided by these important total failure conditions. At the end of the day, an investor doesn't care how much it costs. They care how much it makes. The value of a space elevator in particular is quite large. The entire space elevator, unlike a rocket, serves much like a trellis for building an entire economy. And this starts at the very tippy top, 100,000 kilometers up in the apex anchor, where you can have departure on a regular basis to anywhere in the solar system quickly. This is so impactful that while a space elevator may be expensive to initially construct, no matter what the price to orbit is on a space elevator versus a rocket, eventually there will be a break point because space elevators are almost mass independent in terms of how much they can deliver to orbit, where rockets are built on a literal pyramid of fuel underneath supporting it, creating an exponential increase in the cost and number of rockets required to get large volumes of mass somewhere. Once the equity shortfall is covered, paying back the initial cost of the elevator, it's pure profit for a space elevator. And the further humanity moves to the right on this graph, the more likely this is to occur. The galactic harbor will be the center point of the space elevator, both literally and in terms of its impact. This will function in many ways like the city of St. Louis did for the age of expansion to the west in the United States. It's the last port of call and city where you can pick up any supplies you need and use them to move out into the frontier of space itself. This can be home to dry docks, enterprises, and all manner of business taking place around the space elevator in much the same way cities like Denver grew up around the Transcontinental Railroad. Additionally, like the Transcontinental Railroad, there are many opportunities all along this stretch, including multiple gravitational regimes where you can test what it is to live in a Martian or lunar gravity setting along the elevator, in addition to scientific research in the upper atmosphere and Van Allen belts. Closer to the ground, the space elevator does function as a tower, almost 100,000 kilometers tall. And while it is technically plausible to do this, the economics still need to be worked out on at what point you are building space hotels and summits and all manner of things close to the ground or just above the atmosphere where Branson and Bezos recently just visited. I'll now hand it off to my partner, Eduardo.
Hey, so Kevin has been covering the left side of the inequality, the value. I'm going to be covering the right side, starting with the risk assessment, which is the most critical part here. The risk assessment is basically a combination of different parts, being if they are 0% means that there is no way that there is a solution for that, and 100% means that it's absolutely clear that this will move forward. It will work as a multiplier, which means that all of the different areas, they need to be above 0. And it's also the perceived risk. This is also important from an investment perspective because maybe different investors, they have different perception of how the risk for a specific area is. Until now, what has been happening is that the technical risk has been close to 0 because there has only been really a material. And basically, all this has been making the inequality go to infinite cost, and therefore it was impossible to do. But now that we have a solution with a technical risk, the whole evaluation comes alive and everything has to be in place. The political and legal risk basically is covering how much support or fear from a geopolitical or national interest perspective it has the project. The social risk is how much fear or enthusiasm the society and the media have regarding this project. And the market risk is covering how much the market is ready for this, both as a customer space or also as an investment opportunity, how trendy is the space sector to be invested in. The next one, and the most important one, is the financial pathway. The financial pathway basically is the interaction between the entrepreneurs and the investors that they will need to negotiate in terms of money, risk, and power about how they balance the project. And depending on that negotiation and the weighting of that negotiation, there will be a specific pathway that needs to be taken. This paper is not covering specifically the pathway to be done. This paper is just showing different options. And this will be pretty much defined on live, depending on who is entrepreneur and who is the investor. It's important to highlight also that the financial cost sometimes overtakes the capital cost of the investment, and especially mega projects like this one, the extra cost of the project, they are normally coming from the financial pathway. So, in summary, and as a takeaway of the presentation, first of all, we need to stop considering this from a consumer perspective. We need to understand it from an investment perspective. We don't know how much it costs. We care about how much it makes. Then it's important also to highlight again infrastructure. We try to maximize utilization and value via price reduction and accessibility. And then for the next step, coming from the inequality that we were presenting, value is exceptional and it just needs to be defined and demonstrated. Capital cost is good enough. We didn't mention it before, but basically it's in the range of 10 to 100 billion to build the space elevator, which is good enough. It's only one order of magnitude. Then the risk, however, requires high attention because it's still quite new. Now that the technical has a pathway, the rest of the risk has to be start to minimize because this immediately increase the value of the project. And then finance is the final hurdle and might be subject even to a moonshot millionaire because the first space elevator, despite of this financial equation, it has an additional benefits from a posterity image and basically social media impact. We just want to highlight as well that all the information that we have been showing, the formulas, they could be applied to any other space infrastructure, either for launching infrastructure or on-orbit infrastructure.
And if you would like to find out more about space infrastructure, please visit us at Lightbridge Strategic Consulting. Thank you.
Or see you in Dubai.